Okay, so today I want to talk about deprivation, how to drink less without deprivation. I'm going to cover off on three key things. What is deprivation? Where does it come from? What to do about it? And what to do when you get stuck. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Caroline Holke, and I'm a drink less, live more coach. I help women with their relationship with alcohol so that they can spend more time doing the things that they love. So let's talk about deprivation. Deprivation, what does it mean to you? Typically, it means not getting something that you really want. Let's read the definition. The state of being kept from possessing, enjoying, or using something, the state of being deprived. Here's the thing. Deprivation is really subjective. Here's how I know this. If you can imagine your son or daughter playing video games, and they play video games for a long time, don't they? Do you feel deprived when they're playing video games? Most people will say no. Most people are kind of annoyed by video games, parents. I don't know. Not everybody, but most people are. And here's why. Because there's not a causal relationship between video games and deprivation. Maybe the kids think that they would feel deprived if you take away their games, but you don't. Why is that? I hear things all the time about like that wine was just calling to me. If I can't have it, I feel deprived, as if it is the wine's fault or the vodka gimlet or whatever it is. It's not a causal relationship. There is a choice, even though you don't realize there is. So what's going on here? The reality is that deprivation that you feel is caused in your brain. It's not from the Chardonnay or the thin mints or the weather or your friends or any of that stuff. It's caused from your brain having a thought about it, and that thought creates a feeling in your body, which is actually the best news ever, because that means that you have more control over it than you ever thought you did. Because feeling deprivation, it feels like fated, like this is always going to be there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. Because if we think about a circumstance, like the objective facts, so let's say my sister pours a glass of wine. I could have a thought, my brain could interpret that to mean, oh, I'm going to miss out. And I feel deprivation. And then from feeling deprivation, then I have this little negotiation going on in my brain. And I finally give in and I have that glass of wine. And really, the net result is that I really miss out on unwinding that desire for alcohol. It really wasn't the fact that my sister poured the glass of wine. And I know that because I can also interpret that to mean that could go in my brain. Same events could occur. My sister pours the glass of wine, and I have the thought, oh, that's great. Everybody has what they want to drink. And I feel totally satisfied. And I have my drink. She has her drink. We all sit down and we enjoy each other's company. It's so different. It's not about the wine. It's about how our brain is interpreting that wine in the moment, which is great news, right? Because if it's about the wine, then there's nothing you can do. We are so conditioned to believe that our feelings come from there. And it starts when we're little, when our parents say, oh, did Johnny hurt your feelings at the playground or something? We believe that in so many different aspects of our lives. But our feelings come from inside of us. And if we want to change our feelings, we have to change our thoughts. And the first part of that is figuring out what we are thinking. This sounds super obvious and easy. And this is the tricky part. Okay, because the way that you're interpreting your drinking are things that most people would agree with. The people around you are probably thinking the same things about drinking. If I'm drinking less, I'm worried that that's going to take the fun out of things, or that life's going to be boring, or maybe it'll be awful, or maybe it's, I don't even like these people to begin with. That's the only way I can tolerate being here. Okay, so that's a totally different story, but yeah, you get the point. So it's really important to understand what the thoughts are underneath there. Other ones that come up that I hear a lot are, it helps me sleep. It helps me relax. It helps me do X, Y, Z. So until we can understand what those thoughts are and really address them and really start to unbelieve them, slapping on a new thought isn't going to help you. I don't care how many times you tell yourself the world is flat. You could say that 10 times a day for 100 days and you're still not going to believe it because there's like no truth to it. It's really important to understand what you're thinking underneath there that will help you move forward. So in order to understand what's going on, first, we need to observe our thoughts. And this is actually harder than you'd imagine. We've got 60,000 different thoughts that are running through our head at any given day. That's a lot to take in. And our brain has learned how to operate by kind of like tuning a lot of them out, which thank God, because otherwise that would be kind of crazy. And you all know this. Anybody that's tried to meditate knows how many thoughts are coming into your brain at any time. So first, it's developing a practice of learning how to observe them and without judgment. There's so much judgment that comes up, particularly with alcohol, because our society believes that either you're a normal drinker or you're not. And the reality is there's a lot in between there. So without judgment, that piece is really important. When you can see the thoughts that are quote unquote driving you to drink, it's really helpful to kind of sit with it. Notice how it's playing out in your life. Oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling this pull to go have a glass of wine right now because I had a stressful day at work, or I had an argument with my partner, or I'm anticipating having this difficult conversation with somebody, or if you fill in the blanks right there. What you will find is that there is an emotion that you're trying to get away from, that the wine, the vodka gimlet it is solving for. And just create a lot of expansiveness there. Just notice that. Notice what's happening for you. And then once you can see it, then you're ready to start to shift it. And we do this through a process called ladder thoughts. And how that works is that whatever that initial thought is, it's I can't relax without wine. Then we want to kind of ease into a thought that feels a little less bad. We're not going all the way to rainbows and unicorns day one. We just want one that feels a little less bad. So in that case, it's possible that I could relax without it. It is humanly possible. How about that one even? It's humanly possible that one can relax without wine. Okay. And then that feels believable. And then we're ready to move to the next one. Or other ones, I made a terrible mistake. We can shift that into, I made a mistake. And then eventually go into, I learned from that mistake. It's a process. It's not an event. Some tricks on how to create those ladder thoughts are add little qualifiers at the beginning, like I'm open to, or I'm learning how, or it's possible, or I'm figuring out. Those things, they just help kind of ease into that new thought. And then once you have that new thought, then you want to practice it. You want to practice it just like you practice anything else, just to remind yourself. Do you like Post-it notes on your computer? Do you like to change your password to whatever it is you're trying to remember? Do you like to write it down a ton of times? Whatever it is that works for you, just build those little reminders into your life so that you remember to practice it. Think about the Grand Canyon. That wasn't created in a day. That was created over hundreds of years with water. And it's amazing. It's those little tiny steps that really make a difference. Which actually brings me to my final point, which is what do you do when you get stuck? I didn't say if you get stuck. I said when you get stuck. Resistance will come up. That is part of any change. And it's not a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem. We think that it's a problem. We think that that's like a stop sign, like, oh, we need to go back. This is a problem here. But what if it's not a problem? What if that's just your primitive or your habit brain saying, oh my gosh, she's serious. We need to like really fight this one here. In that case, it really actually means that you're doing something right. You're creating that change. You're on the right path. Let's reframe resistance first and foremost. Remind yourself that this is a process. It's not an event. And the fact of the matter is, you didn't learn anything without practice. Nothing. Everything requires practice, whether that be riding a bike, learning a language, job you're in. It required some practice. And that's totally fine. The thing is, going back to when you slip up, find the lesson, open up with some curiosity, drop the judgment. What is the lesson? What can you learn? What's going to make you stronger next time? And finally, the truth is that it's those really unsexy little steps that are taken with consistency that make the difference. That's what creates the change. So today we've talked about deprivation, what it is, where it comes from. It doesn't come from the Chardonnay or the Thin Mints. It comes from your thinking, comes from your brain. And that's actually the best news ever, because even though people try to tell you what to think, you're the only one in charge of what you think. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.